Hello and welcome back again to Nick at Optima PS. I hope you're all well and thank you once again for coming back to my channel. Another thought's popped into my mind today, so there's going to be two videos in one day for me, which I hope you don't mind me encroaching on your personal time too much. But you don't have to read them or watch them all back in one day, do you? So hopefully this is just me on a nice run of sharing some thoughts with you guys, and you'll forgive me for that. So thank you once again for coming back. As I've mentioned a few times before, if you do like what I have to say, please do like and subscribe to the channel. YouTube, it really does pick up when you guys like and subscribe. It'll get my video shared a little bit more, and hopefully I can gain some traction here and start sharing my thoughts with a wider audience. But it would be very much appreciated if you could do that. So thank you for that in advance. Before I get into this video, as I said before, I've said this a few times now, I am a financial advisor, but my own personal brand of disclaimer on this one is you still shouldn't take anything I say or do during this video as being financial advice. It's just a guy on the internet sharing his thoughts. If I were ever to give you financial advice, you'd know about it. I'd have to do a whole ream of paperwork, and you'd have to sign 7 or 8 different signature boxes. Until that day comes, then please understand nothing of here is financial advice. It's just me sharing some thoughts with you. And I wanted to discuss something else with you guys today because it's something I've seen firsthand again right now today, speaking with a friend of mine. I've mentioned before, you're probably aware of this. I don't live in the UK, which is my country of origin. I've been out in Asia working in finance now for about 20 years. I've lived in 4 or 5 different places. I'm based in the Philippines, predominantly because my wife is Filipino, my kids are half Filipino, and so it puts me in a position where it's a nice sort of home place to be. I can still sort of do some work with my clients in the region without having to fly in and out from the UK. The weather is nicer, the beer is cheaper, and this is where we like to be. So that's where I find myself now. And one thing that I do get to see firsthand is one of the benefits that XRP is going to bring to the table, which is banking the unbanked. And this is something we've heard the phrase, we've heard people talk about that Ripple wants to bank the unbanked. They want to help people who currently don't have a bank in any way or form to find the way to bank for themselves, right? And I don't want to go too much into that. The area people mainly talk about this is Africa. They tell you demographics, how many people in Africa have bank accounts, how many don't. I don't have those figures to hand, and to be honest, that's not something. I'm not a statistician. I don't need to go into that today, but let's all just accept for the purposes of this video that it's a large proportion of people there, a large number of people over in Africa and other places around the world as well. Asia is another one. Various places around the world. It doesn't have to be in any particular place. There are people that don't have bank accounts. Strangely, people don't have bank accounts because sometimes they choose not to, sometimes there's no opportunity to. One thing I see more commonly now speaking with family in the UK is that a lot of the old small towns are losing banks. Banks are pulling out of these small towns in a physical presence way because there isn't enough usage of the bank now. They're paying heavy rents, they're paying staff wages that they don't need anymore and are replacing this with online banking. And it does leave a small portion of the population over there in a tight spot. I have a grandma, she's 93 years old. She won't mind me saying she doesn't use the internet. She has no intention to start using the internet at the age of 93. She likes to go into the bank, withdraw some cash, have a conversation with the lady that's been there behind the till for the last 30 years. And that's all been taken away in the Western world. So, it's not only these emerging market nations that are struggling in this regard. The Western world is going backwards, if you like, to leaving some people unbanked who previously have been banked. But what we definitely know for certain is that a large portion of people in Africa and Asia don't have bank accounts at all. And not only that, but the bit I get to experience is people tend to have a bank account. But a lot of people over in the Western world, in the English speaking world, don't realize just how many people out there on this planet work in a different location to home and rely upon services such as Western Union or that type of thing to actually transfer money back to family members, to whoever it may be. Again, going back to this money transfer system, it doesn't matter what the purpose is for the transaction. If you need to make a transaction, you need to make a transaction. So whether it's going to repay a debt on a home or pay rent for someone or to return borrowed money or to buy something off the internet, whatever this might be. There's a lot of things out there that a lot of people don't even have banks in order to help them achieve this. And I wrote a tweet a while back. I'm going to jump back onto my tweet because it brings me back, it refreshes my memory. But what I basically said is this: that I live and work in Asia. Money remittance is a way of life, where about 11% of the population of the Philippines alone works abroad and sends cash back to family here in the Philippines. It's similar in numerous Asian countries, and there's a Western Union or remittance store on most streets. And that's absolutely true. Most street corners, or most streets where people live, most high streets where the shops and stores are, commercial streets, there is a Western Union of some way or form. Sometimes it's a section of a bank, sometimes it's its own individual store, sometimes it's a lady who runs what we call a sari store here, or like a pawn shop or something like that, where they just have the facility to help you send money from almost what we would call a pop-up shop. It doesn't have to be a section of a bank or anything like this, or its own individual store. There are money remitters everywhere in the Philippines. It's just a way of life. I don't know exactly how many individual remittance stores there are, in the tens of thousands certainly. There's 600 plus licensed entities, so that's 600 plus different types of remittance companies. Now, some of them will have, Western Union, that kind of thing, will have huge numbers of outlets, sometimes in the thousands. I mentioned here Palawan Express is the largest one in the Philippines with 3,800 outlets. Western Union 1,600 plus, and that's just two of the entities. Some entities may only be individual money remittance stores that only have one place where maybe they do it from their house or something like this, but they're licensed to do it. But from a license point of view, there is 600 plus different entities, and Western Union have 1,600, Palawan Express 3,800. They're literally everywhere. You can't help but see them on the street. And again, I go on to say that each one sends and receives thousands, if not much more, every single day. That could be thousands of pesos as opposed to thousands of US dollars, depending on the size of the store. But the bigger ones certainly would send thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of US dollars in a day. The ones in the airport, the ones in the main city centers, things like that. And then I said, I've been out here in Asia for a long time. It's the same everywhere I've worked. Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Brunei, Thailand. All these places have these remittance stores just as a way of life. Back in the UK, and when I've been to other countries in the Western world, yes, in your big city centres, there'll be the odd the odd store on the high street, or the facility through the bank, something like this. But realistically, it's not even comparable with any one of these places I've mentioned here. Everywhere I've ever worked, there are numerous of these outlets. And all of them with cross-border payment needs. With almost every country currency in the world, I put here Chinese yen, Hong Kong dollar, AED, I know you can see all the different currencies I put here, and literally these are just the most common. These are the currencies that I see exchanged all the time. I use these facilities myself sometimes. If my wife goes up to stay with family members up in the province, it's easier for me to just send money via one of these outlets sometimes. I pay a couple of bucks. I've got an app on my phone, so I send it from my phone. She'll walk down the street and be handed the cash. She doesn't even need to go to an ATM. She doesn't need to go to the bank. If I sent her money to her phone, she could use that to transfer it to a card, withdraw it from the ATM. But this way, she doesn't even have to walk as far as the ATM. So it's still a practical, convenient way of life here. And obviously, I've mentioned all these currencies because at the other end, there's somebody there either sending or receiving the currencies in these different countries. So again, and this is only a few of the currencies. This is a thing that's all over the world, and perhaps we don't give as much thought to exactly how often this happens and what it does. And then I go on to say, and this is the smallest end of the international payments market. These remittance outlets are not nearly the same as the small to medium banks, online shopping companies, literally anything where money is sent between countries and currencies. Ripple and XRP will be massive. That was my tweet. That was to gain a bit of attention. But what I say is accurate. It's correct. The currency exchange system is just a part of what Ripple and XRP are hoping to achieve. And if they only grabbed this piece of the puzzle, if they basically replaced the likes of Western Union, Palawan Express, these money remittance services with something that everyone can do at the touch of a button, with something that everyone can do without needing to go to a store. So the process here, if I want to send money in a store, I do have an app on my phone now, but before the days of the app, which most people still do, by the way, most people don't have the phone app. You have to go through a whole bunch of KYC checks and things like this, compliance checks before you can do it. So most people just walk along to the store with their passport in hand, but you'd go to the store with your passport or with another form of acceptable ID. You would fill out a piece of paper. You walk into this store and there's a whole bunch of pens and slips of paper on the side counter. You take the paper and a pen, you fill out your name, address, and details, your passport details, the name, address, and details of the person receiving the money, and then you walk to the counter. They take a photocopy, or a scan of that piece of paper. They upload it into the system. They then take your money and put it into the drawer. They press send. A literal fax goes through the machine. Nowadays, some of it's done online, but in the olden days, it was the fax. They print out a receipt. They give you your receipt, which has I think it's called an ICIN number, an ITIN number. I can't remember the name of the initials of the number now, but they give you a receipt. You then take that number and you send a SMS, or you call, or you take a photo and send a photo to the person at the other end who's going to receive that. They walk in with that one, they fill out a form, they write their number on it, they sign their form, they hand over the form, their passport, and they're duly given back their money. And what we're talking about is a process where there's a foreign exchange. If it's from one country to another, the foreign exchange rates at Western Union are actually normally pretty good. I sometimes use them just for the FX because they're better than the bank. Not always, but sometimes. And the other side is you pay a fee, and the transactional costs for these companies are normally dependent on the amount sent. So they'll go up incrementally the more the amount you send goes up. But typically it's it's a couple of percent, something like that. It's not the end of the world, but it's certainly something you pay for. And so again, going back to just here in the Philippines, we're talking about at least numerous thousands, 3,800 Palawan Express, 1,600 Western Union, that's just two. There's 600 plus entities, probably 10,000 plus, maybe more like 100,000 of these individual outlets. And all that can be replaced, all that process, all that pain in the ass can be replaced with a system where you just send from one person to the other. Now, I don't think it will kill the outlets. I think they'll probably do a cash-in service for a bit of fee again, where you say, look, I've had this money sent to me via the XRPL. It's now in my possession. Look, here it is. Beep your phone like you can beep your phone in most outlets now, and this money will produce in cash. Or you keep it on your phone and you beep everywhere you go because it's now got a US dollar, a Philippine peso, a euro valuation that you can go and spend. But this is just one more reason why I think Ripple and XRP are going to completely radicalize the way the financial world works. And this is something that I think most people in the Western world are perhaps a little bit unaware of, that it takes place. I know if I asked my folks back in the UK, my friends, my family, to send me money on Western Union, they wouldn't even know where to go. There would be one. They could jump onto Google and they'd find one maybe a mile away, maybe 10 miles away. If I desperately needed money for whatever reason would be, and I said, oh, it's the only way you can get it to me, they could find a way to do it. But they don't use this on a daily basis. They don't know this happens. I wouldn't even like to guess how much money is sent between, all of these money remittance services on a daily basis. But it must be tens of millions around the world. I think I said here somewhere in the Philippines, about 11% of the population work abroad. All of those people, and the Philippines is a 110, 120 million people populated country, all of those people will send money back using these services. And that could all be switched into something like Ripple, like XRP. I couldn't tell you that they will have the monopoly on this. I think other cryptocurrencies will join in the game and offer similar services. And I think XRP will be the fastest and the cheapest, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will be the only one. There might be some that are good for certain purposes. There might be some people that don't care which one is the cheapest or the fastest because it's 4 cents and 4 seconds compared to 3 cents and 3 seconds. Somebody else might come out and make one that's 2 cents and 2 seconds. But realistically speaking, we're talking about huge part of the financial sector. And probably a huge part of the financial sector that most people out there don't even know exists and don't know there will be a benefit of taking over this sector. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Hopefully that all makes sense. Again, go ahead, do your research. Ask me any questions in the question box. If you could like and subscribe, that would be incredibly well received from my side. I'd be really grateful. But in the meantime, I'll leave that thought with you, and hopefully we can all speak again soon. Thanks very much, and have a great day.